Right, so first thing, hi, Lee, Mr. Robinson, the man, the myth, the meta eagle.
The one and only.
What I'm doing to start off these conversations is, so the podcast is called Credible. Tell me a little bit more about yourself. What is your credibility?
Right, okay. What is my credibility? So, a few things, Dan. Although I'm the director at Meta Eagle, we're an IT company, an MSP, managed service provider, but my background is IT. So I've been in IT for 22, 23 years now, and I've worked on systems from mainframe, Windows NT back in the day, comms and intel with the military. That was a big spell of my career. Tier 3 engineer, service desk manager. So a lot of the stuff that we do as a business, I've been the engineer that's been going out and doing it as well. So it gives me the ability to lead from the front, having the industry experience and know the tricks and the tips and everything else that you want to do to get stuff done. I'm known in the industry as the day walker. I don't know if you've seen Blade.
Yeah,
You've seen Blade, right? So Blade, he can walk in the day, but he's got all the strength of a vampire. And I've got all the technical knowledge, but people mistake me for sales from time to time. But to their dismay, because it means that when they want to go technical and want to get down and dirty with it, shall we say, then I'm able to do that as well. So winner, chicken dinner.
well, helpful skill set when you can actually sell the service as well as be able to know all the technicalities.
This is it.
Yeah. All right, main thing I want to learn today, we've obviously set this conversation because I'm a bit of a novice when it comes to IT security. So from a small business perspective, just what is the sort of like general health checks that a business should be aware of? Because I think a lot of, well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think, so from my experience, a lot of businesses don't really know enough about it.
So do you mean as a minimum, a business starting off, what should they have in terms of an IT capability?
I would say so, yeah, because like the chats we've had, I've noticed you're talking a lot more about just your general sort of like health of what should you be monitoring, and some of like the no-brainers that generally people, like especially business with like your data protection and everything. What's like the core that businesses should really build into like a foundation, what they do as a practice.
Okay. So where do you want me looking now? There, to there.
And so this is filming you from that angle.
Yeah.
But we're just having a chat.
Right, wicked. So as a basis, right, any business nowadays is going to rely on some form of IT capability. It doesn't matter if you're running a digital marketing agency where, you're doing all nice, great videos and you've got high-powered machines that are rendering things for you, or if you're running, I don't know, a hairdresser's and you might be on your feet all the day cutting hair, but chances are you're going to be using an accounting system, you're going to be ordering stock, you're going to probably be doing that from a computer, right? So every company needs to rely on IT to a certain degree. I can't really think of any industry where you won't be using IT. And where people fall foul is sometimes I'll just go get a machine, I'll turn it on and I'll wing it. And some people do, when they're starting off, they wing their IT, right? But as a minimum, what people should be thinking of and considering, from a branding point of view, what domains am I going to use? And then from there, what email system am I going to use? Don't use your dan@gmail.com. Use your dan@apexpro.com instead.
We're doing that from like professional representation or from
a branding representation, and then also as well because you've got control of your own destiny. There are a lot of business out there that are still rocking NTL World email addresses or BT Open Zone addresses, and with Pop Email getting switched off later this year, a lot of businesses are finding out, that email account I've had for 15 years isn't going to work anymore the way I used to use it. So Pop is a type of email technology with the idea, Pop 3 has been around for a long time. And the idea is you go to the server and it checks the mail out and it downloads it, post office protocol. That's the old way of doing things. As a business, you shouldn't really be on a Pop email solution anymore. A lot are though. So if you've got your email in something like 365, where you're able to control the system and the setup, then you're not relying on if NTL World's going to get acquired and turn its emails off, or if BT Open Zone decide that they're going to come out of the email game. So that's important. With that, where are you storing your data? How are you storing it? And how are you making sure it's secure? So passwords, big thing. We all have to remember hundreds of them, even in our social lives. let alone our professional lives. Make sure that they're all different. Make sure they're secure. Make sure you've got a mixture of numbers, letters, special characters. And to that extent as well, make sure that you're using a password manager. If you're using unique passwords, as you should be, you're not going to remember all of them. So every business owner should have a way as a company that they store passwords. And how is that secure? Make sure that you're not just using a username and password, but you're using 2FA, so multi-factor authentication. So what that is you'll have a username and a password, and then an app on your phone or your smartwatch or a token, physical token, whatever it might be. So you need all of those things to log into a system.
As you can use that like the tool you're using. Remind me what it's called. It's not LastPass.
No. So we don't. LastPass have had some bad press, and we won't go too much into that before I end up in trouble. So we promote a password tool. So what we offer to our customers is a tool called Keeper.
And that allows you the multi-stage authentication.
That Keeper itself does support multi-factor. So you have a username, password, and a token in order to log in. But the multi-factor applications we use, Microsoft 365 have got one built in. So you've got the Microsoft Authenticator app that you can use. And again, that's something you should turn on within your 365 environment. There's other ones out there as well. Duo is a big one that we put out, authenticator apps. Google have a free authenticator app you can download. So even as an individual, let alone a business, you should be turning on 2FA on absolutely everything. And the 2FA side, there's free tools out there to allow you to do that. It doesn't cost you anything. The password managers, yeah, they cost you a couple of quid, but they're relatively inexpensive in the grand scheme of things. A lot of people get compromised because passwords have been compromised elsewhere. And then the assailants have tried to use those credentials in a different environment and been successful. It's not necessarily that environment's been compromised. So make sure you know where your data is. Make sure you're using your own email system or solution and you're in control of your destiny, like Microsoft 365. Make sure you turn 2FA on for everything. Every business needs to register with the ICO. So you need to register with the ICO, and if there is a breach of data, i.e. that goes against the GDPR rules, that it's reported to the ICO. So then you need to start thinking about what are you doing to keep your data secure, your customers' data, your suppliers' data secure. And you've got to look at how you're protecting your workstations. So Billy Basics first. Make sure things are updated. Make sure things are patched. If you've got one or two machines, it's pretty easy to manage that. If you've got a larger real estate, maybe you've got 5, 20, 30 employees, you're probably not going to go around every machine and make sure it's up to date. So that's why you need to be working with a service provider, an IT service provider like us, to make sure that all the machines are updated. There's a patch schedule as to when that's done, and preferably in an automated way to make life a lot more easier. You need to make sure that you're not using any old technologies in your business. So if you're using Windows 7 or Server 2008, get it gone. There's no excuses. You shouldn't be using it, right? It's not security patched. It is a giant hole in your security. Get rid. Stop making the excuses. And if it's old applications that are making you rely on that, then look for new applications. Repivot what you're going to do as a business. To that extent as well, in today's age where a lot of things, as you know, are SaaS-based, right? There's no need to have servers. I mean, we've got one server here, but that's like for dev purposes more than anything else. Other than that, people walking in are like, wow, you haven't got servers. Like, we're really shocked. Well, yeah, because a lot of stuff we do is SaaS. It's all, software as a service based in the cloud. So we don't have to worry about patching it, and the same for clients as well. Let someone else take that responsibility. There are some applications granted in business that do require a server for whatever reason, but there's ways to host that. So one thing we have is what's called Meta Desktop, where we'll take a server and we'll host it in Azure, or we'll host it in a data center presence. And it's another thing for the customer not to worry about. Then finally, backup. How are you backing up your data? How often are you backing up your data? Where is your data? And what do you do in the event that there is an issue or a breach? So whether that be a ransomware virus, whether that be a rogue employee that's deleted stuff, whether that's been your office is burnt to the ground and you're not able to go there and work anymore, how are you going to be counteracting that? And sorry, I said finally, didn't I? There was one more very important one that I saved to the end. Endpoint protection. How are you protecting your endpoints and devices? Yes, antivirus is great. Well, I say great. antivirus is okay, but there's better technologies out there now, such as endpoint detection. So, of course, it will protect you against all the normal antivirus stuff. But what EDR does is it will analyze threats that are out there as well. And it will make sure that your environment is protected and that you're able to roll back if you are hit with a cryptolocker virus. So we do all of that, but then also add various other bits like mail filtering and then DNS filtering. And security is just basically like an onion. Just keep building layers upon layers upon layers. So the idea that if you get hit through one layer, maybe the next layer stops them. And it's more prevalent now in the news than it's ever been with cybersecurity and companies getting hit. And what you have to do as a business owner or a stakeholder in a business is to make sure that you're mitigating that risk. There's no way that me or any IT professional can say you will never get hit. But what you can do is make it damn hard, so that probably what will happen is the attackers will move off from you and focus somewhere else. Because one thing that we hear a lot is companies turning around and, we're quite a small organization. There's only 6 of us. No one's going to want to hack us and get our information. Hackers don't care. You're just an IP address on the internet. They don't know if you're 5 people, 50 people. They're not probably even going to care to look and do the research on it.
And if they're in like an object of ransom, or do whatever.
Exactly. And I know scenarios where people have been held to ransom. So why leave yourself vulnerable? It's the same with your house, isn't it? You leave for work in the morning. You might lock the back door, deadlock the front door, set the house alarm, draw the curtain so it looks like someone's up. Apply that same logic and principle to your IT systems.
Sure, because I think like from the small business perspective, you said if they're not already aware of it, if that's not really what they understand, then it's easy to just neglect it. Yeah, we're safe. It's not going to happen. Why would it happen? But just having that basic understanding of this is just what you need to do fundamentally. Just like locking your door, then it's built into the process. But I think, like from my own perspective as well, if you're not aware of it, you've got to just go away and do your research. Might need like hours to research. You don't have the right people, such as yourself, to just be able to say, here's the roadmap. Here's how we can do it for you, but here's what you should just be standard.
Well, it's like anything in business, isn't it? So, case in point, I've run a business for quite a few years now. I've got a fairly good understanding of HR. I've got a pretty good understanding of bookkeeping and accounts. But we outsource that to people that know more than I do. So people in HR that will tell me that we can or can't do certain policies, or we have to have something in place. And I follow that because they're more up on their industry than what I am. The same with accounts. Yes, I could do my own VAT returns and our own corp tax return, but my time is better spent elsewhere in the business. So that's why we have accountants that do that for us. And IT is exactly the same. There is a case in point, and one that sticks in my head. An ex-software developer turned barrister, runs his own practice, and I was having a chat with him, and very smart bloke, very technical. And he came down to the crux of, well, is that how you should be spending your time? Or is there better ways to spend your time? And he looked at me and went, fair point, because I could be off, billing for things rather than messing around with machines and getting policies in and working. So it's working smarter and outsourcing those things that perhaps, one, isn't your field of expertise, or two, you don't have the time for, because time is something we're all short on, right?
It's the same, obviously, with like SaaS. Why are you not having everything in-house? Well, because there's more flexibility and there's just better solutions.
Yeah.
But no, I completely agree. Like just having that, it's not about having everything in-house, because if you can have someone who's just more of an expert at doing that and there's more flexibility with it, you just get better.
SaaS is great, and we always hammer, especially in the SME market. In the enterprise market, it's a little bit harder because, as you can see by all the servers that are racked up for a company that's going in, sometimes they need physical kit. Yeah. But for your SMB market, very few companies need an on-premise server. So it's common sense to make it someone else's problem, right? You can host your emails, if you can host your file storage, if all of your applications run in a browser, then it means that you can work from anywhere, which is what we're all about. It means that maintenance is not going to be tricky. You don't have to worry about downtime windows to patch and update things, because that's done, but you don't see that. That's done in the ethos. So yeah, move everything that you can to a SaaS-based product to make your life easier. Yeah, it's going to cost a bit more, but it's like anything in life, right? If you want something that's good and maintained well and reliable, it's going to cost money, unfortunately. That's the way that it goes.
I should have put this the other way around, shouldn't I? Was I done it the wrong way? Oh no, there you go.
It's my big chest. I've done some push-ups.
No, the vibrates through the big chest.
Oh, will it?
You got it. Oh no, I meant it in a good way. Like you're not hearing it.
Like my voice, that Barry White.
I could have it a bit here. I'll probably still do well. But I'm going to run it through some AI cleanup as well.
I'd be interested to see what you use.
Like studio quality. There's an Adobe one that music.
Well, I'm thinking of doing like a similar thing here, right? So this is like a demo for that. Because I want to do not necessarily a podcast, but us lot talking about technology and stuff we use. And I think this backdrop will probably be the better one for it.
Way is creating content. Like I've just started working with Kendrick. This is one of the things that he's talking about. Like, obviously, everyone's thinking, I want to get results through social media, videos, the way forward, because it just outperforms content. Well, how can I do that most efficiently? It's not like filming every day because it's a huge investment. But if you can sort of set aside like an hour a month or something, either you're having a chat with the lads and got a list of questions and conversations you want to have, or let's say I'm providing this to you as a service in the same way as what I've suggested. Darren, give me an hour of your time. We'll sit down. I'll come prepare with a list of questions based off what your target audience and industry is looking for. Interview you on those questions. You're going to relay that information back as those or educate or help. From that hour of film, you've got enough content for them.
We might need to have a chat about that after this.
Doing it most efficiently. So I'm trying to do the same thing because there's all sorts of different ways I can do it. I've got a video editor, but he's split between a lot of client work, too much client work at the minute. But then I'm also trying to build a system of high quality YouTube videos, long form video, making short form content. So it's snappy, it's cricket, because it's you want to distribute your message out to as many different platforms as you can, because you're probably going to get more results some places than others. But at the same time, if you're putting like one post per week out on one platform, you're getting some attention. But with every platform and every piece of content you're putting out, you're just doubling the potential reach.
No,
it's not like every piece of content's going to outperform the other. But
it's just putting stuff out there. I mean, we track, you can't see it now, obviously, because the screens are offline, but we track all of our social stuff and we get graphs and everything. And whenever I post something, you see the graphs go up and people are interacting and and the search results in Google are going up and website landings are going up. And it's just getting the name and the brand out, isn't it? And you've got to just put consistent content. We were having this conversation because up until last month, Josh did a blog post. But before that, I'm ashamed to say this, before Josh did that post, it was, I think, bang on a year pretty much since we posted anything on the blog. We just didn't have time. Fuck it, I ain't got time for that. Social media, it was 3 months. But we didn't post anything on any channel. The last message a couple of weeks ago was about our Christmas opening hours, which isn't very relevant.
I've actually got a bit of data on your website traffic that I can show you.
oh, okay.
Because I was working with an IT security company. So obviously I know you do the same. I was just curious where you place all that. I'll show you that in a sec. We've sort of gone off IT security. Last thing I was going to say, I think, like what you were saying, you're obviously thinking ahead. And in the same way as like what you were saying with your IT security as well as everything else, if you've got your social media platforms, if you've got your websites, everything that is digital and sort of representation of the business, it's the same with your IT security or anything else. If you've got it, you might as well try and put the time into it, because otherwise it's doing absolutely nothing. It sits there and it's wasting time as a waste. And in some cases it's draining money and not making money. But the challenge is, of course, building that into a system. Either you're systematized in-house or you've got the right people or SaaS-based solutions to help do that. You should plan that obviously at the time. So we've just obviously said if you can set aside, you're personally setting aside an hour a month, that's manageable. You just got to then have the systems in place that are obviously going to then facilitate and deliver on that. But the last thing I'll say, if you are thinking about doing it, focus on your personal brand. So if you've said that you get mistake sales a lot, you're really easy to talk to. You're a lot of fun to be around. So I've no doubt why you get mistaken for sales sometimes, but use that to your advantage. So for example, what I'm talking about is if you're putting anything out through business channel, that's going to get less results than if you put it out through personal. So build yourself as Lee Robinson, the Meta Eagle, anything. And I think like probably LinkedIn would be your ideal sort of channel you want to focus on. Putting out regular video content or just
Regular content's important, right? Let's be honest.
Regular is always like the foundation. Video outperforms everything else. So if you're doing that, focus that effort on your LinkedIn and have it come from you. So when someone sees that post and they want to contact you, or you contact them and they check your stuff, they know who you are. But if they're getting a message from the company, they're like, I don't own this company, I don't give a shit. But they're more inclined to want to respond.
Well, because they've got that bond and that relationship they feel that they built with the stuff that's online. And
it comes back to that fundamental business. People work with people.
Yeah.
So if we on the sort of smaller level, people are expecting to work with a person, but of course, if you like build that out to like a bigger brand, I don't know, like Nike or something, then obviously there's no person involved, of course, but there's the representation of the brand in some way and identify with it. So it's the same concept really, but it's all about what kind of results you try and get. So if you're trying to build your own outbound channels of, I'm trying to get in touch with people, focus on yourself. Like I said this to Captain Ted Stone before we left the meeting today, that she was asking the same thing. I just said, number one thing, don't think about it from the business. Think about it as who.
you know what though as well, and utilize tech, because one reason why we started blog posting again, I'm not ashamed to say it, is some of the content that we're doing now is spat out via ChatGPT, right? So I don't need to tell you, there's so many tools out there at the moment that can help you in terms of cleaning up footage, like you said, running it through an AI analyzer, make your lighting and everything a little bit better, from writing scripts on ChatGPT to synthesize and having a digital avatar to then read that script. Did you know you can actually digitize yourself for $1,500 and you can make yourself speak any language? Like, that's pretty cool.
You can also do something that will, if I'm reading from a script, but my face is looking at the camera,
It moves your eyes.
it will automatically on your AI, but eyes on your face, so it's always.
I want to do that, but with blue eyes. Can you imagine? I think I think that'd be quite captivating.
What colour would Blade's eyes?
Like yellow, I think. That looks a bit devilish, though, doesn't it? You wouldn't trust someone. Wouldn't trust someone with yellow eyes. No, in fact, I like my hazel eyes. I'm gonna stick with them. My deep brown eyes. Right.
I did have just a few more questions regarding the IT security. I was interested by one of the things you said. You're talking a little bit about like the computers that people are using. How does that work? Like, what would you say? So primarily, the team I'm working with is decentralized. This they're employed by us. Primarily, like they're not in the UK, but how what would you advise on that sort of thing? Like the computers that they're using, would they ideally need to be using like the company's computers that they
outsourcing's difficult, right? Because especially in this era of BYOD, bring your own device, so some companies allow you to utilize your own laptop or desktop or whatever it is, using your own device to do the work. What you've got to think of is, how are they connecting to your system? How are they accessing your data? And how are you as a business still making sure it's secure, even though it's someone else's machine that they provided themselves? So what you'll be doing in your IT policy is to have the requirements of, it needs to be an operating system that's supported. You don't want someone connecting with Windows XP or something silly like that, do you? You've got to make sure that they have got a minimum of threat detection or antivirus, or their machines patched, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And as part of that, they are agreeing to that policy by utilizing that. If you wanted to take it one step further, you might have them log on to some form of remote desktop. So their machine's just a thin client. They're connected into an environment. There's some great technology now, Windows Cloud PC. I'll show you this off camera, some of the stuff we use. Windows Cloud PC, Azure Virtual Desktop, hosting an environment that they connect to, issuing them with a username and password. So then if these freelancers or contractors, whoever they are, finish, you can block their account. They don't have access to anything anymore. If you wanted to go sort of top end, and what we see in some of the bigger firms do, is that they will issue a laptop for the duration of that contract. So if you work with some of the big sort of government environments, agencies or councils, they will give you a device that belongs to them, and you're only allowed to access the data and do the work from their device. We have a similar thing here. The team have their laptops, their work laptops, and they're only allowed to use that for when they're accessing stuff because we can govern those work laptops, whereas their personal device, we don't have any say over.
No, because I think that's obviously, there's a lot of businesses now that are more decentralized since COVID, if not what they were before. It's certainly opened the floodgates to what we can actually do now as a decentralized business with the technologies that are all already available. But then that obviously brings into, depending on like what level of data security we've got, what sort of level of GDPR that we need to be aware of, it's how do you make sure that you've still got that internally secure, because not every company is necessarily going to want to spend the money on.
That's a really good question, and one of the answers to that is making sure that you're following industry best practice and framework. So an example of that is Cyber Essentials, right? So Cyber Essentials, governed by a group called IASME, they follow the National Cyber Agency's directive into what you should be doing. And it goes through all the basics, such as making sure that you change the passwords on your router rather than the default one that's connected to the internet, making sure that passwords meet a minimum requirement, making sure you've got multi-factor authentication, I mentioned before, making sure you've got endpoint protection, and even things that are completely free for you to do, like making sure that the account you log into to do your day-to-day work is not a local administrator, because that means that if you were to get a payload or some form of ransomware or attack onto your machine, it's only going to run as your non-admin account you're logged in as, so therefore it's going to reduce its attack surface. So following those, and I would go as far to say that every business, doesn't matter what industry you're in, every business should be Cyber Essentials certified, because it's going to reduce your probability of attack to about 80%. Because you're mitigating that risk. So I'd say anyone watching, how can I make sure that I've got some form of protection and that I am cyber aware? Go for Cyber Essentials.
What is so? Is that something that I can find as like downloadable? Or is that like?
So it's on the government website. It's on IASME's website. The National Cyber Security Team put out a directive of what Cyber Essentials is and what you need to do in order to qualify for it. So it's all out there and it's all freely and publicly available. If anyone wants any more information, more than happy to have those conversations with them. But to get your Cyber Essentials certification in the grand scheme of things is relatively inexpensive. So why wouldn't you follow that? And make sure as well that your IT provider has that to more so verify that they're able to practice what they preach.
Because I think that's definitely how I sort of wanted to move towards a conclusion of this conversation. Like, where can I get this information? So the fact it's all free, readily available by external providers, so that's really useful. Is there anything outside of having a conversation with yourself? Is there anything we can get from that, or any sort of like nuggets?
Yeah, so we've got quite a bit of information about these different technologies that you can use and Cyber Essentials and some various hints and tips on our website and on our vlog. So www.metaregal.co.uk. I think if you go to .com, it will just push you to .co.uk anyway. But all of that information is on the blog section. And on there, if you want a friendly, helping hand or set of advice, we've got a little chat function on there. You can talk to us directly, or you can fill out the contact form and that'll come straight through to us and we can give you a shout.
You beat me to. I was going to ask if there was how can people get in touch with you? You've just done that. Final question. Is there anything you want to plug as far as like what's your big plans for the year? Anything people should keep an eye on from that Regal?
The big plans for the year. Right. So we've spent the last few years battling through COVID, making sure that people can work remotely and do what they need to do, and helping our clients and helping new prospect clients to work remotely. From that's come our brand of work hard anywhere, you know, the idea of being able to be in a hybrid solution, being able to work remotely and having the technology to allow you to do that. We've done a great deal of investment in terms of our supply chain, our procurement, the way we finance stuff for clients. And we've built a very good two-sided pyramid. For the next couple of years now, we're going to be quite aggressive onto the sales and getting out there and helping people leverage their IT and leverage technology, because where we're different, there's a lot of IT service companies out there, right? A lot of managed service providers out there. Where we're different is we're all engineers and techs that have been through it before. And we're a little bit different personality-wise. We love to sit down and understand our clients, their businesses, where their businesses are going, and how we can use technology to make their lives easier, as well as making sure they've, of course, got all the fundamentals. So people are going to be seeing a lot more from us in that sense, which is great, because who wouldn't want to see more of us, right?
I think you've definitely got a solid brand, a solid offering. Like, it's a waste if you don't get that out more, because obviously there's a lot of value you can offer to people. And off the back of that then, what is an ideal referral for you? What is, if I could give you a pool of opportunities, what would they look like?
Okay, so we've got two arms to the business. We've got our MSP, managed service provider arm, where we will look after the IT infrastructure for a company. So for that, the ideal client is between 5 and 50 people. Someone who wants to invest in technology and wants things done right, not on the cheap, because we just don't work with those people that want to bodge things. We do it right. That's what we're all about. We've no compromise. And people that perhaps aren't getting the best out of technology, to allow them to achieve their goals, whether that's allowing their staff to work remotely, or whether that is making sure they have disaster recovery and failover plans, or certain accreditations, or whatever. So that's one arm. The next arm is our professional services. So we do a lot of work, we call it co-pilot, where we might assist other IT companies or other IT departments within an organization to deliver large-scale projects. So whether that's large infrastructure projects, networking, wireless, virtualization, server migrations. So that's a good arm for us as well. Then we've got the communication side, where we do lease lines, comm management. We've got quite an exciting project coming up where we're deploying Starlink satellite connections for remote sites to connect back to a central headquarters. So I love that sort of stuff. That's my background, delivering comms to places. So yeah, those opportunities and scenarios are what's great for us, really.
And Tamsin, mate. Thanks for your time. It's been fun.